Hello, everybody. I'd like to introduce you to Paul Ibbetson, the CEO of the DX Group. Thank you very much for joining us today, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, David. Good to see you.
Thank you very much. The sector we're talking about today is the irregular dimensions and weight sector. So I wonder, Paul, if you can give us an overview of your business, what it does, and its position in the supply chain cycle, please.
Yeah, certainly, David. Well, first of all, well done for saying it, because a lot of people struggle. So we refer to it as IDW, because irregular dimensions and weight is a bit of a mouthful for some people. So forgive me, I'm going to use the word IDW just so I kind of don't make a mess of it too many times. In terms of DX, the IDW market represents about 50% of our company's turnover. So to give you some idea in terms of structure, we're around a £600 million business, DX. Made up of two divisions. You have our DX freight division. So within that is our IDW parcels that we carry. Easily termed as it's the stuff that nobody else wants to carry. So it's not very friendly with mechanization, not very friendly with small vans. It's difficult to handle, so quite labor intensive. So examples of that, tires. So we see a lot of tires through our kind of IDW network, lengths up to 6 meters. We see multi-carton deliveries, so anything 8, 9 or 10 items to a delivery. So it's that real challenging stuff that kind of you have to, it's a very manual process in terms of handling it. And predominantly our delivery vehicles are 7.5 tons as well. So that represents around about kind of 50% of that turnover. So £300 million of our turnover is through that IDW channel. The remaining divisions in our freight division are our logistics division. So we offer warehousing solutions and final mile delivery as well. And that's an area certainly that we're seeing kind of growing at the minute in terms of logistics and dedicated solution for customers. And finally, under our kind of freight umbrella is our two-man division, or DX2 as we refer to it. And that is a business to consumer proposition. So that could be room of choice. We do some light assembly, some wet connections, and it's a very specialized delivery. And from the term, you know, it's 2 people in the cab, and it's an over the threshold delivery. So it's quite personal, and it has a kind of unique approach in terms of, we call it icebreakers. You're talking to the consignee before you arrive. It's a 2-hour delivery window. As I say, you're unpackaging the goods. Quite personal. So there's a lot of interaction with the receiver. So, you know, that's our kind of freight division. Flicking over to the opposite business unit is called DX Express. That contains our express parcels division. So that's your smaller items. But we're predominantly targeting, we're a cage network, so we don't use mechanization. So we're a little bit more flexible around some of the products that we'll carry through our parcel network. And again, we see it as an area of growth. And then last but not least is our original business, which is the document exchange business, which is nearly 50 years old, born out of the Royal Mail strikes. And that serves the legal fraternity. It's like a closed network. So we deliver to all the solicitors, to the courts, the jury services, police, got a lot of government officers, visas, etc., etc. So it's a very, very specialised delivery. But shortly put, David, that's the kind of makeup of DX. And as I say, our turnover is roughly around about 600 million now as a business.
No, thank you, Paul. And as a individual business, your business is probably as complicated as any business that we worked with in my other business, in my recruitment business, because it's very complex, isn't it? All the different parts of it, and it's very interesting. And you probably cover a wide range of services for a wide range of customers, so it's really good. And then going back to the irregular dimensions and weight sector, do you see that as a growing sector, a flat sector? You know, because it's as you say, the traffic is not always sort of sexy, for want of a better word, but it's critical. It gets there, and it probably drives the economy as well.
Yeah, it's deceiving how many irregular items they are, and the core carrier market is very restrictive to a degree in what you can send with them, and a lot of customers will have 60 or 70% of their freight that could go via a parcel carrier. but the remaining will not. And it's sometimes the convenience of using one carrier rather than two, Dave. So, they will use DX as that one-stop option, rather than kind of split the traffic. An order may be one box, but then one length that's 4 meters. They don't want to send two separate deliveries. They want it delivery as one consignment. And again, I suppose the uniqueness of DX is that ultimately, if you have got that kind of mix of traffic, you can send your irregular traffic via our IDW channel, and you can obviously send your parcels via our express parcels channel. So I think it's quite a unique model in the industry where we have these kind of multi-channel business and multi-channel options under the one umbrella.
No, indeed. And thank you for going through that. A question I'm asking most people, what brought you into the lovely logistics sector?
Wow. Okay, I'm going to have to cast my mind back now. So interested, it was at 1998. So 36 years in the industry. I've seen several of your clips, David. And the one thing you do see is the kind of the depth of experience when you're interviewing people, when you're having these kind of podcasts with people, 20, 30, 40 years. It seems to be an industry that most people seem to fall into and then fall in love with. When people say to me, the parcel industry distribution, I describe it as Marmite, because you either love this industry or you hate it, and once you're in it, it's very addictive. So I started when I was 17 years old, purely by accident. My father was an engineer. He took redundancy and he went into the pub trade. And this is when pubs shut at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and then opened again at 7. And I wanted a little bit of independence. So I went and got a part-time job at a company called Business Post at the time. We've obviously been through several changes, UK Mail, and obviously now under DHL ownership. And I started filling cages on the back shift, doing 3 or 4 hours a day. And I fell in love with it. I went driving, I went onto the night shift. And then I wanted to get more into the supervision and kind of management side. And I became one of Business Post's youngest general managers at 24. And yeah, I've been in it for the last 36 years. In terms of senior positions, obviously just over 10 years at Tufnells. Got the opportunity there to join the management team. And we owned that business, obviously, until 2014. And then latterly, I joined DX in November of 2017. It was different times then, Dave. The business had about 4 weeks left. It was a very distressed business. It had run out of cash. And we started the turnaround of DX. I joined as managing director for the freight division. And then I got the opportunity to become CEO just over 2 years ago. So 2 years in as CEO, and obviously a very different business now, healthy, turning over 600 million, 5,500 employees, 2,500 couriers, and profitable, which we're very proud of. Profit shouldn't be a dirty word. We are profitable and proud of it.
And well done. And part of the podcast and the communication is to hopefully attract people to come into this sector, because as you say, it's a wonderful sector. I describe it as organised chaos, and no 2 days are the same, and people either like that or don't like it, like you say. So it's Marmite, but once you get into it, it's just amazing, and it can drive you mad, but it's amazing. So thanks for giving us that good overview of it, and hopefully it's attractive to the young people, because it's a great career, and you can, if you've got the drive and determination, you can get to wherever you want. You really can. That's where the industry is. It's a meritocracy. It's really good in that way.
Dave, it's a good point. And I always say to people, I left school at 16, didn't do very well through my exams. But, what I lack in education, I like to think I make up in kind of common sense and hard work. And, when I stand up in front of our people, when I stood in front of our people at Tufnells, I used to say to them, if an ordinary lad from Barnsley that didn't do very well at school can get to the position I can, then anybody can do it. And if you're willing to work hard and put the effort in, and you've got some common sense, then, you can achieve anything in this industry, and it can catapult normal people and give them the opportunity to be extremely successful. And I'll be grateful to this industry for that. But it's hard work. I'm not going to dispute that.
A wise man once said to me, your attitude and your aptitude equals your altitude in this industry. And that's very, very true.
Yeah, my dad said to me, you get out of life what you put into life, son. You put nothing in, you'll get nothing out.
Well said. So thanks for giving us an overview of DX and the business. What do you see as the current challenges in maybe in your marketplace and in the industry at the moment?
Yeah, I think the challenges I see us facing in the industry, but probably the broader economy at the minute, Dave, is really the uncertainty that's around the UK economy, European economies, and worldwide economies, if honestly. So there are kind of factors that, to a degree, are out of our control at the minute. It feels a very volatile world as it stands. We've seen, obviously, a change of government. We've obviously got the elections going on in America. We have wars going on around kind of the world. Ukraine, Russia continues. There's the Israel-Gaza situation. It just feels a very kind of delicate place to be. And I think that's creating some uncertainty. We're seeing supply chain issues from China still, the disruption around the Red Sea. So I think there's just a kind of degree of lack of confidence around generally. I think the UK economy is still suffering from them high inflation rates from a year ago. I think everything still feels extremely expensive whenever you renew something. Interest rates are still running high despite the cut, obviously, last month. I think it feels like tough times. And nobody wants to use the word recession, but I think it's been a longer period of more difficult times than we've seen in the past. I think when we have a recession, 2008, we saw that crash, Dave, but then there was that bounce back within 6 to 9 months. I just feel that this kind of has been a longer depressed period. And it's affected consumer, and I think just consumer confidence in general. I think that's probably the external factor. Internally, really, it's about adapting your business all the time and having that kind of fluidity to react to that volatility. What we're seeing at the minute is kind of peaks at certain times of the month. The beginning of the month, probably when cash is available to businesses, and then adjusting to those volumes, kind of dropping towards the end of the month as kind of people are preserving cash into the next period. But generally, internally the business is still growing. We drive ourselves and pride ourselves around service. So we're not, a race to the bottom in terms of price. But the biggest internal challenge is just probably managing those kind of fluctuations in volumes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Over the next 3 to 5 years, what do you see as the biggest opportunities, for your sector?
Yeah, I mean, specifically around DX, we want to grow that DX2 business. So that kind of 2-person crew, we see it in areas of real growth. We don't see a real kind of market leader in our country. There are a couple of reasonably sized players, but it's relatively kind of subscale in terms of turnover, comparative to kind of the general kind of parcel market. There's a real kind of demand from the consumer now, from that convenience piece. You don't want to kind of go off to the superstore or kind of department store and kind of choose your stuff and mess around trying to get it home, etc. You can click and order it. Choose the day you want it delivering, have a 2-hour delivery window, get somebody to unpack it for you. If it's furniture, they can put the legs on. So, that kind of 2-person sector is something that we want to kind of really grow and develop. Logistics as well. Again, we've seen a lot of businesses now around kind of cost pressures that are very good at manufacturing or selling something, but distribution is just not their game, and the cost of employing people, running fleets, optimizing to get kind of value out of that. We're seeing a lot more customers come to us now and say, look, can you take this element away from us? We're going to stick to what we're good at. So in terms of growth opportunities for us, they're kind of 2 areas that we see in terms of growth. And the final piece under our Express division is parcels. We're seeing good growth around that kind of sector where we're trying to identify ourselves as a little bit different. We're not just about a small box that goes around a conveyor. We'll carry a little bit more kind of irregular stuff. And it's very, very service-led. because, in the past and to a degree currently, there are a few of those kind of suppliers that seem to have a bit of a label around not probably offering that kind of premium service.
Okay, no, fantastic. And on the other side of that, what do you see as the potential biggest threats to the sector over the next sort of 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, it's about attracting people to our sector. That's what concerns me, Dave, really. And, I think COVID was a really strong example of how important distribution is to this country. It is effective. It's like the body, and distribution is the blood that travels around the body, because, we and all the other distributors out there carry all this product to our doors, to our soup. It ends up ultimately our doors in one form or another. And if there's any kind of criticism I have of the government, I think they kind of treat our industry with a little bit of contempt to a degree. They see us as kind of, we drive big dirty trucks and we kind of ruin the environment. When the reality is I don't see any encouragement to bring in the next generation of people to keep distribution and that heart flowing around the body. And I think it's a real risk. I'm not here to glamatize our industry at all, but likewise, the government are quick to talk about areas like tech, and it's kind of very kind of flash and modern and the rest of it, and integral to our business as well. But I don't see them driving the importance of our sector. And I think that's a risk.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. What are people in either the IDW sector or logistics not talking about that perhaps they should be?
Yeah, so I'm passionate about service. All right. I hear other people in our sector say it, but relatively muted. I wear it on my sleeve. Okay, and I think our industry's lost its way a little bit over the last few years in terms of service being first. Too often, I think cost has come in before service. And that's certainly not a compromise I will ever make, as CEO of our business or historically when we were at Tough Nose. I'd like to hear our competitors and our industry talking more around service, and that really being top priority for all of us. Let's deliver a really top quality class service at good value for money, but not be embarrassed to actually make profit out of it. It's a tough industry. We ourselves think we're very good at this, Dave, yet we scrape margins of 4 or 5, we're heading towards 6%. And for us, that's driven on the back of a high quality service. I'd just like to see more of our competition talk about service.
Okay, no, good. And as you say, because we work across the whole sector, the whole industry is relatively high volume, but relatively low margin. Generally, I would say probably 5 to 7% is, the norm. Sometimes it can be 1 or 2%, and the best people are making generally no more than 10 or 12. But it's a very, tough sector to make money out, and it's obviously there's a price issue always for clients and candidates, which we respect, especially in the economic times we're in at the moment.
Yeah, well, consumers don't want to pay. Consumers see delivery as free. I think that, we went through a phase. Remember when you click something and you don't pay for it? Sadly, it does cost something. So it's a difficult one, changing the mind. And when you're dealing with a customer, ordinarily distribution is a bottom line cost, unless they're charging it back to the consumer.
Yeah. Nothing is free in life anywhere. I agree totally. How do you see the green transition impacting your sector?
Yeah, again, it would be nice to have some direction off our government as to where this is actually going. I mean, what is the medium to long-term plan? Again, that kind of probably frustrates me of a leader in our industry as to, where are we going? What is the direction of travel? Let's talk about EV, because obviously that's the one that's kind of in and around us now. In terms of product, I think we've all seen cars in the last kind of 12 or 18 months take a real leap forward. You've gone from that kind of 100-mile range to vehicles now that are 400 plus. You've got light commercial vehicles, so the van fleet is now starting to catch up So we're looking at vans now that can operate anything between kind of 200 and 240 miles. I think the sector that is still lagging, David, I'm seeing little progress around, and obviously is a big part of our business, certainly around the IDW market, is that kind of HGV element. So 7.5 tonner and upwards. There's hydrogen around, but I'm not seeing that kind of broadly used. So vans, we've got electric vans on the road now. We're increasing that fleet as those kind of ranges increase, which is good. I think the two underlying challenges after that, one is infrastructure. I think that is a whole different challenge for the UK generally. Because I remember, I think not this January before, we were having blackouts because the grid couldn't cope with electric or the volume electric being used. And we continue to try and put this infrastructure in. It's slowly getting better, but I think there's still got a long way to go. And as I say, the second biggest thing for me is really around what is that direction of travel from our government? What is really the medium to long-term piece around, ESG, carbon footprint, and that environmental piece?
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And during your career, what development has surprised you most over your career in the sector?
Having been in it 36 years, I'll probably say IT is the short answer, because everything now is very much consumer led. So it's all around kind of full visibility, all those kind of options around when you want something, where you want it. And I've probably seen ourselves move from, I remember working in Target Express 20 odd years ago and having one IT person. We now have a department of 100 IT people, and a third of those are working on development, and the rest obviously different kind of functionality. But, the IT has come on leaps and bounds. I remember, 15, 20 years ago, Saturn in DPD, which I think they still use now, market leader, still a fantastic operating platform. But the technology around the other carriers and distribution in general now is come on leaps and bounds. And I think you have to keep up with technology now. That is the demand of the consumer and the customer.
Yeah, I think, like you say, it's the expectation rather than the desirable expectation. I'm looking forward to this question because I'm asking this question to everyone. If you could speak to the Prime Minister, then what would you ask them to do to assist your business to grow and flourish?
Yeah, something to do. I'd probably not talk about our business or my business. I would talk about the sector, coming back to what I said previously. And I genuinely do not think our industry is given enough respect by a government. I think we're taken for granted. I think the government just expects what happens every night and every day just to happen. And I would like to sit down with the Prime Minister and say, when are you and how are you going to start to recognise our industry? And that being from understanding that the very skinny margins that we all work off and how hard we work to achieve that. When I started in this industry, there was around about 40 carriers, Dave. There's probably less than 10 now. The number of haulage companies that have gone out of business. And, these were flourishing businesses at one time that have kind of just, that have gone to the wall, for want of a better word, and no longer exist. So my challenge to the Prime Minister is, what are you going to do to recognise and improve our industry and encourage people into it, through, leaving school, how do people get into the logistics and distribution industry, rather than, sadly, my eyes tending to be about an IT role, working within the HR environment. You rarely hear, I'm sure if I went into a school and sat down with 300 children, I'd be lucky if one of them said, yeah, I want to get into parcels or distribution. And that's probably because the dad or mum are doing it.
Yeah, true. But also, unless people are ambassadors for the sector, that makes the world tick, people won't know about it. And we only know what we know. So, part of the idea of this and everything is to share the news, but also become, ambassadors for the sector. So really appreciate it. So thank you again, Paul, for your excellent overview of the sector. I'm sure it'll be really interesting to our viewers and listeners. Thank you so much.
David, thank you for your time. Good to see you.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.